What's up, guys? Albert Dom back with another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to get approved for Chase business line of credit, which goes up to $500,000. And toward the end of the video, I'm going to be showing a live call that I had with my private banker, my relationship manager. So make sure you stick around toward the end to get all of the data points directly from my private banker. All right, guys, let's get straight into it. So Chase business line of credit goes up to 500K. A revolving line of credit is different than a loan. If you guys don't know, a line of credit is similar to a credit card, to a business credit card. So this is on the business side. But the difference is that it's liquidity, it's cash in your account where you could walk in the bank, take the money out and use it. Or if you want it to be in the account, you could just use it that way. And then it obviously replenishes, similar to a credit card. So let's say out of the 500K, for example, you use 100, it'll be at 400, you pay that back, you'll be back to 500K revolving line of credit. All right, so another thing is, if you guys currently don't have a relationship with Chase, I definitely recommend you open up an account with them and have that account open anywhere from 6 months or more before you go for this line of credit, and obviously get some personal cards with them, some business cards with them, and really build up that relationship, especially in this time with the banks tightening up. I've noticed the easiest approvals for me and my clients with Chase. Chase is usually one of the most generous banks, and they'll usually give you the money you're looking for. Just make sure to build up that relationship with them. All right, so here it is. Chase business line of credit, key features, lines of credit starting at anywhere from 10K to 500K. Of course, this will depend on what your credit score is, your relationship with them. From what my relationship manager told me, she told me that you want to be, in order to get approved for 500K, you want to be at least at 2.5 million revenue or higher. It will be 20% of what your revenue is on the business. So just keep that in mind. You'll usually be getting approved for 20% of whatever you're making in the business revenue. So for example, if you're only making 100K or let's say a million, you're going to get 20% of that will be 200K. So keep that in mind when having expectations for what you'll get approved for. So this is a 5-year revolving term with potential to renew after. That basically means that it'll keep replenishing for 5 years, and you basically have 5 years until they'll want to close it down, and then you reapply for it. So for pricing, it's a variable rate indexed to prime. So if you guys don't know, the prime rate is what the Federal Reserve's interest rate is. We currently have one of the highest prime rates in history at 8.5%. So it usually will be that plus whatever interest rate Chase will add on top of that, which also matters with what your credit score is. Obviously, if you guys have a higher credit score, the interest rate will be lower. So that's why I always say, and I always preach, to make sure that your personal credit is good. It will help you guys out with everything else in life. Remember, in America, your credit is your #1 asset. So make sure that you guys do whatever it takes to build up your personal credit profile and then leverage that for the business credit side. And then here it says interest rate is based on such factors as your banking relationship, credit history, and collateral. So sometimes they will want collateral, so keep that in mind as well. Payments, minimum monthly payment is accrued interest plus 1% of the outstanding balance or $100, whichever is greater during the draw term. Make payments and initiative advances online. All right, and then they also have a commercial line of credit. This is obviously if you're at 500K or more. This is obviously if you want $500,000 or more. And this is for 2 years with potential renewal thereafter. Another thing to keep in mind is if you guys have currently any inquiries, I recommend you have those removed before applying. They usually pull Experian Business for this, as you'll see her go over toward the end of the call, but sometimes they could pull a different bureau. So if you guys have inquiries and you want them removed, you don't have to have a credit repair company do that for you. You guys could do that yourselves. I do go over that in the school community. If you guys still haven't joined, I recommend you join with the link down below. I show you how to remove inquiries for free on all 3 bureaus, and it will be paid in the future after it hits 50 members. So take advantage of that now. If you still haven't joined, click the link below to join the school community. All right, guys, I hope that was a helpful video on my end. So watch toward the end of the video now. We'll be transitioning into the live call with my private banker. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the asking.
Yeah, so I called another rep at Chase, but they told me that they couldn't answer the questions, that I have to call my relationship manager directly. So I figured I'd just give you a quick call.
Yeah, what can I help you with?
I just had a few questions about your guys' business line of credit. Just like what are the data points and the qualifications in order to get approved for it?
Yeah, so typically it's for business profile. There really isn't any qualifications in order to apply, but I relationship with us. And depending on the type of industry as well, we're also looking to see if that is a fact. There is going to be a guarantor on a line of credit or loan, so we do need them to be a decent candidate, which we talked a little bit about in detail what that means. And yeah, essentially, I would say it's dependent on what you're looking for. We don't really like to extend credit out to expand the business in the sense of allowing your business to grow with our funds. It's more so just to get the working capital or general business financing. The applications we typically will approve more optimistically, as well as, let's see here. Yeah, pretty much straightforward, and just making sure that you have enough cash flow in order to support the loan or line of credit. So those are some of the main points on that one.
So you said 6 months of a banking relationship and then 2 years of what?
Like I said, those are absolutely requirements. If you're a great candidate, we would still approve you without meeting those qualifications. But I would say, generally speaking, if you have 6 months of deposit relationships and at least 2 years in your business formation, you are much more of a stronger candidate than someone who just newly formed their business.
Got it. So 6 months of a deposit relationship and then 2 years of the corporation being open or more, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then I was just curious too, do you guys look at like the business credit score, or the Paydex score, or the Experian business credit score? Okay, and what does that have to be at? Like at least the Paydex score, like at least the 80 or higher, correct?
I can't answer that. I'm not in underwriting, but we do definitely look at it. There's a lot of nuances with those applications. I don't have any of those information at the top of my head.
Okay, got it. And then the personal credit score has to be on point as well, right?
Yeah, of course. So making sure it's not necessarily just a quantitative number, meaning the credit score should be above, X credit score. It's more so looking at it as a whole, making sure that there is a decent utilization without overextending. You don't necessarily have very high monthly debt payments. It's the total, not just necessarily the number. So
Yeah, it's more
credit profile on personal and a business side both look strong.
right. So it's the overall credit report plus the score as well, right?
Of course.
Okay, and then a few more questions. Do you know what bureau you guys pull? Do you guys pull Experian for this too?
I believe we don't discriminate. From my experience, usually I will see alerts from Experian and TransUnion, but we are allowed to pull from all three.
Okay, so but because I recently got a business credit card with you guys, and they pulled Experian for the business side, but you said it could be Experian or TransUnion or maybe all three.
Yeah, I'm not sure, again, the nuances of which bureau they use for the application, but in my experience, I see alerts on Experian and TransUnion, so there's no clear guidance on that either.
Okay, got it. And then one last question. I see it goes up to 500K, the line of credit. What would my revenue have to be at in order to get approved for the full 500K?
Well, it depends on your industry and the request, right? So if you're someone who has very high accounts receivable, the financials look strong, that typically is going to be 20% of your annual revenue is what we'll make available to you. Now, if you're someone in a more heightened risk seasonality business, we might only make 5 to 10% available to you. So that's usually percentage of your annual revenue.
I see. So if I'm like in a low risk business, for example, let's say in consulting, that's what I'm in. I would basically be getting 20% of what my income is. So let's say if I was making 2.5 million.
That's a little bit trickier because consulting, while it does not necessarily have high overhead costs, a lot of our underwriters don't necessarily see a need for a business to have that large of a line of credit for a consulting business if there's not very well known overhead costs associated with that. So with that being said, there's a two-part factor. Yes, you do have to have a very large and sizable business to support that sort of annual revenue and credit line request, but you also have to be in an industry that makes sense for why you're using those funds. We won't necessarily make it available to you just because we feel like you're good for it. There has to be a need at that point.
All right, let's say, for example, I'm in a different industry that's low risk, that needs the capital, and there's a need for it and all of that. I would have to be at least at like 2.5 million revenue, and it would be 20% of what or income or whatever you told me. It would have to be at least 20% of that
it would at least have to be 20%. Let's say, for example, 2.5 million, 20% would be the 500,000. Is that correct? Or like 25%?
Generally speaking, yes, but there's, like I said, applications that will then qualify you into different tiers. So if you are, best case scenario on absolutely everything in personal profile, cash flow, business profile, everything else, then yes, speaking 2.5 is typically what we request for 500,000. Any request over typically 100,000 is going to require financials anyway. So between that 100,000 to 500,000, as long as the financials can support what we're putting on the application, I don't see necessarily having too much difficulty applying for that.
Okay, and then the financials would be, I'm assuming, 2-year tax returns?
2 years personal, 2 years business, personal financial statement, possibly accounts receivable, other balance sheet information from the business potentially.
Oh, I see. So personal statements and business statements as well, correct?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Yeah, is there anything else I should know about this? Line of credit?
No, just dependent on, a lot of newer businesses, I would say, are looking into this, which is perfectly fine. I would always recommend potentially starting off with the credit card to start building that credit history with the business and with us as well. I don't necessarily think a line of credit or a loan is the best fit for absolutely everyone, especially depending on the amount that they're using for. It really has a large part to do with the use of credit and exactly the purposes that they're going to be using. I think probably like 40% of my requests I can transition over to a credit card because it makes more sense for that business.
So you would recommend too that the person or whatever, the client, builds a relationship up first through the business credit cards and then go for the line of credit after?
Again, that's dependent on what they're using it for.
I'm just saying, like, what would have...
Businesses, for example, I'm saying that a lot of businesses want to establish a new business. Here's a deposit relationship. Let me open a line of credit. And then I ask, what are you looking for working capital? In my opinion, that's too early for you to be expanding there, and you're not really going to have a successful application. But if you are looking to, make your general expenditure businesses expenses with a credit card, it just makes more sense. One, in its ease of application, and you're more likely going to get approved for that higher amount. And as you know, we do have credit card solutions that are 0% financing for the first 12 months. In that essence of that, it makes sense. I'm not saying you have to have a credit card in order to apply for a line of credit. I'm just saying for most businesses, that's the chronological order of how you should be expanding.
Got it. So most businesses are most likely to get approved if they follow the chronological order and then use the business credit cards first and then work their way up to the line of credit, right?
Yep.
All right. That makes sense. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.